You ever have one of those days where the world just shifts? Like, the color of the sky doesn't actually change, but something in your chest knows it's not the same blue it used to be? That was the day I met the man who would, unknowingly, set fire to the entire blueprint of my life. It was a Thursday. I remember because I always hated Thursdays, neither here nor there, like life's waiting room. I was sitting in the parking lot of a Home Depot, sipping on lukewarm coffee and waiting for my buddy Craig to pick up paint for his new deck. My phone buzzed. "Hey babe, dinner plans changed. Meet me at Cielo's at 7. Just you and me. Need to talk." Speech balloon read hard. Now, when your wife sends a text like that, random, out of rhythm, 2 emojis more than usual, you get that tickle in your spine. Not the good kind. The "are we breaking up or buying a puppy" kind. Still, I thought maybe this was her olive branch. We'd been off. Not fighting. Not distant exactly. Just off. Like 2 actors who forgot the next line in the middle of a scene and are just staring at each other waiting for the cue. So I cleaned up, put on that navy button-down she always said made me look like a man with a 401k, and drove to the restaurant. Cielo's, white tablecloths, overpriced scallops, and ambience loud enough to muffle whatever truth was coming. When I walked in, the host greeted me with a look I didn't quite register until later. Pity? Or maybe secondhand embarrassment. "Reservation for Ashley," I said. "Oh yes. She's already at the table. With the other guest," the host replied, polite and surgical. "Other guest?" He led me to a corner table where Ashley, my wife of 9 years and change, sat laughing at something the man across from her said. He wore a smirk and a black shirt that fit like it was stitched to his ego. I stopped 3 feet from the table. Ashley looked up. "Oh hey, babe. You're here," she said, like we were about to celebrate a birthday, not detonate a marriage. That was the first scene. The setup. And trust me, what came next made that smug little dinner look like the gentle warm-up round before the real heartbreak started. Now, I've never been the jealous type. You have to trust the person you marry, or at least pretend to, if you're planning to sleep at night. But as I stood there watching Ashley grin across the table at this guy like he hung the moon with one hand and wrote poetry with the other, something in me started screaming, "Hey genius, this isn't dinner. This is a goodbye wrapped in marinara sauce." I sat down anyway. He reached across the table, hand out like he was greeting an intern. "Chase Donovan," he said. "Ashley's colleague." Colleague. Right. And I'm an astronaut if that handshake meant nothing. Ashley beamed, too brightly. "You've heard me talk about Chase from work. He's been such a great support system lately." Support system. That's a new one. Right up there with work husband and just a friend. So I did what any sane husband would do in that moment. I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I'd rather lose a molar than let this gym model meets tech bro get the satisfaction of seeing me squirm. They small-talked. I observed. She laughed at his jokes too hard. He leaned toward her like he owned the real estate. And her hand? Resting just a little too comfortably near his. A bit too familiar. You learn to spot these things when you've been with someone long enough. Love his body language. So does betrayal. I excused myself to the restroom, mostly to avoid flipping the table. I stood at the sink, staring at my reflection like it owed me answers. Then I noticed the group chat notification on my phone from our neighborhood's carpool thread. Ashley's car's been gone all night again. Did she say if she needed us to grab the kids this morning? Gone all night? Again? I went cold. That's when it clicked. This wasn't the beginning of a conversation. This was the conclusion. The final draft. They didn't bring me here to talk. They brought me here to close the chapter, my chapter. And here's the worst part. She smiled at me all the way through it. Not sad. Not sorry. Just polite. Like I was the third wheel at my own intervention. We paid the bill. Chase offered to cover it. I let him. I figured, if he was so eager to take over my life, he might as well start with the check. On the drive home, Ashley rode in silence. She didn't hold my hand. She didn't explain. Just stared out the window like the conversation was over before it began. I didn't push. I had something better than questions. I had instincts. And when we pulled into the driveway, those instincts turned into a mission. I was done waiting for answers. I was going to find them. You know that feeling when your stomach drops before your brain catches up? It hit me the second we walked into the house. The lights were off. The air was different. Still, but not peaceful, like a hotel room someone else just left. Familiar objects, but no warmth. The scent of her perfume lingered, but underneath it, something else. Something musky. Male. I didn't say a word. Ashley went straight upstairs, probably assuming I'd crawl into bed and pretend none of this happened. But I didn't follow. I stood in the foyer for a solid minute, just listening. Then I walked, slowly, methodically, through our house. Our museum. Her heels were kicked off neatly by the door. Too neatly. Ashley was many things, but neat? Not when she was rushing in late at night. These shoes were arranged like they'd been placed, not dropped. I turned toward the hallway. The guest bathroom smelled faintly of cologne. Not mine. And the towel hanging on the rack. Still damp. I opened the linen closet. There it was, a balled-up hoodie shoved behind the extra toilet paper rolls. Gray, branded with some out-of-town CrossFit logo. Size XL. I hadn't been that size since college. I held it in my hands for a second. Then, calmly, I walked to our bedroom. She was in bed already, back turned, pretending to scroll her phone. That's when I asked it. So how long has it been going on? Her finger froze mid-scroll. There it was, the moment I knew. Not just a suspicion. Not just a theory. A fact. Her stillness was the truth. She didn't deny it. Didn't gasp. Didn't even play dumb. Instead, she sighed. One of those long, tired sighs that makes it sound like you're the burden for finally bringing it up. Logan, she whispered, I didn't want you to find out like this. I let out a quiet laugh, almost impressed. There was another way. Silence. Then she said, it wasn't supposed to happen. I've always hated that line. Like love is some runaway train you accidentally jump in front of. Like cheating is something that just happens, right between the gym and the lies. She sat up, wrapped in her robe, not meeting my eyes. Chase, he understands me. You and I, we've been distant. You know what else has been distant? I said, your honesty. Still no apology. Just justification. She told me it had started 6 months ago. That it was emotional at first. Another line from the Cheaters' Greatest Hits album. Then she dropped the bomb. She wanted to see where things went with Chase. Oh, I said, nodding slowly. Like it's a new Netflix series you're trying out. That actually got a reaction. Her jaw clenched. I stood up, walked to the dresser, and pulled out the envelope. The one I'd been filling for weeks. Printed emails. A few hotel receipts. A photo or two. Not because I suspected. Because I knew. I tossed it on the bed beside her. I was hoping I'd never need this, I said. But I'm not walking into a courtroom empty-handed. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something. Maybe guilt. Maybe regret. Maybe a monologue. But I didn't give her the stage. I walked out. That was the night I decided. If this was a war, I wasn't just going to survive it. I was going to win it. After the night she confessed, if you can call that half-hearted whisper a confession, I slept in the guest room. Correction, I laid down in the guest room. Didn't really sleep. You don't sleep when the walls of your life have just caved in. You stare at the ceiling like it's got answers. Ashley didn't come knocking. No tears. No can we talk. She just let the silence spread like mold through the house. And honestly, that was the loudest message of all. She was done. Not in the dramatic, throw your ring on the ground kind of way. No, she was done like someone who'd already unpacked their suitcase in another life and was only returning to this one out of contractual obligation. She was waiting for me to leave, to break first. But I didn't. I got up the next morning like it was any other Tuesday. Made coffee. Took out the trash. Read through emails. You'd think nothing had changed, unless you looked closely. Because under all that normal was something dangerous. Something calculating. See, people like Ashley? They think their power is in surprise. In getting ahead of the story. But I've always been the long game guy. Quiet type. Observe, plan, execute. She'd made a move. Now it was my turn. That morning, I pulled out my old journal. Not because I'm sentimental, but because it helped me remember dates, patterns, moods, hers and mine. I flipped through the last few months and saw it plain as daylight. The withdrawal, the sudden late-night work events, the uptick in her gym schedule when she used to consider a treadmill punishment. I already had the envelope of receipts and screenshots, but now I was building something else, a map. Every lie she'd told me, I was stitching it together like a quilt of betrayal. At noon, I called my lawyer. Matt, I said, as calm as if I were ordering lunch. I need you to start drafting divorce papers. No delays. No mercy. He was quiet for a beat. You sure? I looked around the house. Our house. The art she picked out. The couch I paid for. The wedding photos still hanging in the hallway, where her smile was already starting to look like a lie. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. Matt and I had worked together years ago on a messy estate battle between two brothers who hated each other more than they loved their inheritance. If anyone could weaponize paperwork like a scalpel, it was him. I didn't tell Ashley about the call. Didn't give her the satisfaction of knowing I was crumbling. Instead, I played along. Came home every day. Ate dinner at the table. Even made small talk. She responded with her best impression of a woman stuck in a waiting room, distant, polite, already somewhere else. She thought I was delaying. She had no idea I was loading the chamber. 3 days later, I went out to grab groceries and took a little detour to Chase Donovan's office building. He worked in marketing or consulting or some other profession that gives grown men an excuse to wear jeans with blazers and call themselves visionaries. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. I just waited. At 5:12 p.m., he strutted out like a man who thinks the world owes him a handshake. Phone in hand. Smile too white. Walk too confident. I snapped a few photos from across the street. Just him. No confrontation. Not yet. That night, Ashley came home later than usual. Said she stopped for drinks with a client team. I nodded. Smiled. Offered to warm up the leftovers. She didn't even notice the envelope sitting on the coffee table with her name on it. She opened it the next morning, while I sipped coffee in my robe, reading the paper like a suburban villain in the first act of a crime drama. Inside? A few photos. Nothing scandalous. Just Chase at work. A little surveillance. A note. If you want to leave, just say so. If you want to play games, remember, I'm better at them. She didn't speak to me for 2 days after that. The tension in the house could have cracked concrete. Every footstep echoed like a threat. And then came the shift. Sunday afternoon, I came home from a jog to find her in the kitchen, makeup done, wine glass half full, looking like she'd spent the morning deciding whether to flirt or confess. She chose neither. Logan, she said, this isn't healthy. I nodded. You're right. I think we should talk about how to move forward. Like adults. Totally agree. She blinked. She hadn't expected that. She thought I'd beg. Plead. Bargain. She didn't know I already had a lawyer sharpening knives in the background. I've been thinking about moving out, she added, like it was her idea. I've already started packing your things, I said. Silence. You pack my what? I figured you'd want to be close to Chase. Or whatever version of yourself this is now. So yeah, your suitcases are in the guest room. She stared at me, mouth slightly open. Shocked, not by the words, but by how calm I was. You don't have to be cruel, Logan. That's the part that got me. Cruel? She thought this was cruelty? Ashley, I said, you invited me to dinner with the man you were cheating on me with. You paraded me into a public place like I was an extra in a play I didn't audition for. And now, you want a gentle exit? She stood there, speechless. Good. Let it sink in. Because the storm hadn't even started yet. They say when you shake a tree, you find out what kind of rotten fruit's been hanging in the branches. And let me tell you, once Ashley realized I wasn't going to beg or break, just act, suddenly, the tree shook hard. Within 48 hours, the side characters started crawling out of the woodwork. First came her best friend, Mandy. Now, Mandy had always rubbed me the wrong way, one of those women who treats drama like currency and gossips like it's her civic duty. She'd never liked me much, probably because I never played the eager husband role she expected. I treated her with polite indifference, which apparently was a declaration of war. She showed up on my front porch at 9 a.m. Monday morning, holding a reusable coffee cup and wearing sunglasses like she was shielding herself from truth rather than sunlight. Logan, she said, all faux sweetness, can we talk? I didn't even open the screen door. We're already talking. She smiled tight. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Ashley told me you've been acting out. Acting out. That one made me laugh. Like I was a toddler throwing Legos because I didn't want to share. Did she also tell you about Chase? I asked. Mandy waved a hand like she was brushing lint off a lie. Look, whatever happened between them, it wasn't serious. It was just emotional. That's different. I tilted my head. Is it? Huh. So if I went on a 3-month emotional vacation with Mandy's husband, we'd be even. Her jaw tensed. Ashley needs space to figure things out, Mandy said, shifting tactics. You being combative isn't helping. I stepped forward just enough for the screen door to creak. Mandy, let me save you some breath. If you're here to fix her narrative, don't. Because I've already rewritten the script. And spoiler alert, it ends without her. She left in a huff, muttering something about toxic masculinity, which is funny, considering I hadn't raised my voice once. Later that week, Ashley tried a new move. A group message. She copied in her sister, 2 friends, and one of our mutual couple friends, probably assuming they'd rally to her side once she cried victim. The message read, "Hey guys, I know things are rough right now, and I appreciate you being here. Logan's been going through something. He's angry, unpredictable, and I just want to move on peacefully." Unpredictable. That's rich. I'd been the human embodiment of a thermostat for 9 years straight, calm, stable, consistent. But now that I was no longer letting her walk all over me, suddenly I was unpredictable. I didn't reply. I forwarded the message to Matt, my lawyer, and then I posted a different kind of message on Facebook. I never used the thing, but I figured now was a great time to remind people who I was. I wrote, "To friends and family. Some of you may have heard that Ashley and I are separating. While I prefer to keep private matters private, I want to be clear about one thing. I am not angry or unpredictable. I'm awake. For several months, Ashley has been involved in a relationship with another man, emotionally, physically, and by her own admission, intentionally. I wish her clarity. I wish her honesty. And above all, I wish her goodbye." That post didn't just get attention, it set off fireworks. Within an hour, my inbox filled up. Half were people saying, "I always wondered about her and that guy from work." The other half were from Ashley's friends, now performing Olympic-level backflips trying to stay neutral. One even wrote, "I didn't want to pick sides, but good for you for standing your ground." Translation: I thought she'd dump you first, but now that you're the one walking, I'm rebranding myself as Switzerland. The next twist came from a direction I didn't expect. Chase. He emailed me. Subject line, "Man to man." If I had to guess, he probably thought the dust had settled and we were going to have some kind of civil handshake and let bygones be bygones. Here's what he wrote. "Logan, I know this situation is messy. I didn't mean to cause damage between you and Ashley. Our connection was unexpected. I respect you and what you two had. If there's anything I can do to make the transition easier, I'm willing to talk. No hard feelings. I hope we can both move forward in a way that's healthy." I read that email 3 times just to absorb the full audacity of it. Then I replied, "Chase, if I wanted help transitioning out of a burning building, I wouldn't ask the guy holding the match. You don't owe me an apology. You owe me silence. Try that." I didn't hear from him again. By Friday, Ashley had officially moved out. She took the guest room stuff, some clothes, and her blender, of all things. Left the wedding photo behind, though. Guess it didn't match the aesthetic of infidelity. But I wasn't sad. I was clear. I stood in the empty space where her dresser used to be, not thinking about what I'd lost, but about what I could now build. Revenge isn't about shouting. It's about silence and precision. And now, with the emotional fog gone, I could see every step of the plan. This wasn't just about Ashley anymore. It was about cleaning house, burning the blueprint, rebuilding the man she'd underestimated. You'd be amazed what a man can accomplish when he's no longer wasting energy on hope. Ashley thought she left me gutted, but what she really did was free up every ounce of bandwidth I'd been using to keep the peace. And once I redirected that towards strategy, things got interesting fast. Now, let me be clear. I wasn't going to stoop to her level. I wasn't going to text blast her family or start rumors at her job. But revenge? Oh yeah, revenge was on the itinerary. It just wasn't going to look like what she expected. It was going to wear a suit. Ashley worked in corporate partnerships for a mid-sized media company. She loved to name drop during dinner clients, ad reps, event sponsors. I used to tune her out, but turns out, if you listen close enough, arrogance leaves breadcrumbs. There was one client in particular, Treadmore Athletic, a luxury gym chain trying to go national. They'd been her golden goose lately, multiple contracts, branded events, influencer tie-ins. I remembered the logo because she brought home one of their insulated bottles like it was a trophy. So I made a call. See, what Ashley didn't know was that one of my college buddies, Jared, happened to be the regional manager at a logistics firm that handled, wait for it, Treadmore's event shipments, branding kits, stage equipment, merchandise, all of it. "Jared," I said, "hypothetically, if a vendor's lead on a campaign was sleeping with a competitor's consultant and funneling inside pitch info to him, would that raise flags?" He paused. "Hypothetically. Let's call it a case study." 2 hours later, Jared had someone on his team forward me an internal email chain completely anonymized, of course, discussing a breach in confidentiality between a Treadmore campaign manager and an external consultant. Sounded familiar. I never said Ashley's name. I didn't need to. All I did was make sure the right people had the right puzzle pieces. Next, I turned my attention to Chase. Now, this guy had all the charisma of a wet countertop, but he knew how to self-promote. He ran a consulting group, small, but loud online. Buzzwords, LinkedIn posts, speaking gigs about building authentic brand stories. All fluff, no backbone. And wouldn't you know it, he listed exclusive strategic advisor to the Donovan Initiative on his website. Fancy name. No substance. Sounded like a nonprofit, probably for optics. So I dug. Spent a weekend pulling every public record I could find. Turns out, the Donovan Initiative was a registered LLC that had failed to file taxes for 2 years. And its charity status? Expired. Someone forgot to renew with the IRS. Oops. I sent an anonymous tip to a journalist I knew who ran a blog about nonprofit accountability. I attached screenshots, links, even a PDF of the IRS lapse. For days later, the blog ran a story titled, "The Consultant Who Forgot to Consult His Own Paperwork." It wasn't a scandal, but it was enough to get Chase's inbox blowing up with questions. His credibility took a hit. Small one, but public. Loud. Permanent. I wasn't done, but that part was dessert. The real main course was about to be served cold and legal. Matt, my lawyer, had finished drafting the divorce paperwork. We sat down one morning to go over it. "You sure you don't want to go for alimony?" he asked, flipping pages. "I don't want her money," I said. "I want her discomfort." He raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess," he said. "She's not going to like the custody arrangement for Max." Max was our dog. She'd left him behind like he was a couch she didn't have room for. But now that she was playing social media martyr, she'd started posting old photos with captions like, "Missing my sweet Maximus broken heart," as if she hadn't abandoned him with a half-full food bowl and a note that said, "You can keep him." So yes, I made Max part of the filing. Not because I thought she'd fight for him, because I wanted it on paper that she didn't. 1 week later, we met for mediation. Ashley showed up in a sleek blazer, acting like this was a business merger, not the fallout of an affair. Her lawyer looked sharp, but tired, probably had 3 other messy divorces to deal with before lunch. The mediator began calmly. "We're here to reach an amicable split." Ashley interrupted. "I just want this over. I want clean terms. No drama." I slid the folder across the table. Inside, photos, messages, my full ledger of everything, dates, times, receipts. She didn't even open it. "I don't need to see that," she said. "That's okay," I replied. "Your lawyer will." Her lawyer glanced at her, confused, then started flipping through the file. 30 seconds later, he cleared his throat. "Ms. Donovan, we may need to adjust some of our terms." Ashley's eyes narrowed. "What?" "I believe Mr. Carter is entitled to the house." She laughed. "Excuse me." Matt chimed in, calm and cutting. "Adultery is not illegal in this state, but financial misconduct tied to unethical contracts, well, that has legal implications. Would you like us to walk through the campaign documentation now, or in court?" Her lawyer leaned in and whispered. Her face dropped. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Not the pushover. Not the safe bet. Just a man who finally called her bluff. I didn't gloat. I just stood up. "We're done here," I said. "The papers are in motion. The rest? That's your mess to live in." I walked out into the daylight, the weight of a dying marriage finally off my shoulders. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like renovation. I hadn't burned her life down. I'd simply handed her a match and made sure mine was fireproof. After the mediation, Ashley's world started folding in on itself, not because I made it so, but because truth has gravity. Once you stop holding it up with excuses, it drops like a stone. Word got out. Quietly, of course. I didn't gossip. I didn't warn people. I just stopped shielding her. The moment I stepped back, people started asking questions, and she had no rehearsed answers. Mandy unfollowed me on everything. Fine by me. Ashley's sister sent me a message saying I didn't know the details. I'm sorry. I never replied. I didn't need apologies from people who stood silent when they could have spoken. But the one I didn't expect? My coworker, Brianna. She stopped me in the parking lot one afternoon, a coffee in her hand and a hesitant smile. I heard, she said. Yeah, I replied. It's been educational. You look lighter, she said. Not happier. Just clearer. Funny thing to say, but true. You want to get a drink sometime? She asked. I paused. Not because I didn't want to, but because I'd spent so long being a husband, I forgot what it meant to just be me. Not yet, I said. But maybe. And she smiled like that was exactly the answer she respected most. Ashley moved into a loft downtown. Smaller, colder. The kind of place that looks great on Instagram but echoes in real life. Max stayed with me. He adjusted quickly. Funny how dogs don't need closure, just consistency. I heard through the grapevine that Chase got pulled from a few contracts. Not blacklisted, just quietly downgraded. Turns out, companies don't love the smell of scandal on a consultant's resume. Ashley posted about new beginnings and self-growth. The captions were hopeful. The eyes behind them weren't. I bumped into her once. Grocery store. Same aisle. Different universe. She reached for oat milk. I reached for coffee. Logan, she said. Like she forgot she wasn't supposed to say my name anymore. Ashley, I said. Polite. Neutral. You look different, she said. I shrugged. That's what happens when you stop carrying things that aren't yours. She nodded. No fight left. No apology, either. And that's when I knew she didn't need punishment. She was living in it. A month after the divorce was finalized, I wrote a letter. Not to send. Just to say things that didn't need saying out loud. Ashley, you didn't ruin me. You revealed me. You showed me who I was when everything fell apart. I used to think love meant holding on no matter what. But now I know, it also means letting go when someone lets go of you first. I loved you. Truly. Even through your silence. Even through your betrayal. But I love myself now more than I miss who you used to be. I hope he was worth it. I hope you were honest, finally, with someone, even if it wasn't me. But if not, that's not my problem anymore. Logan. I burned the letter in the fire pit out back. Watched the edges curl, words turn to smoke. It felt good to let go twice. They say revenge is best served cold. I disagree. The best revenge is being the last man standing, with peace in your chest and no more need for proof. I didn't lose a wife. I shed a weight. I didn't get my heart broken. I got it rebuilt. I took up boxing, reclaimed weekends, hosted poker nights, repainted the living room, changed the locks. Not because I was bitter. Because it was mine now, this house, this life, this silence that didn't ache anymore. I never tried to win the breakup. I didn't need to. Because while Ashley tried to build a new life on top of the ruins she made, I planted something else. Something honest. Something stable. I ran into Brianna again. That drink eventually happened. No sparks. Just laughter. And that was enough for now. The truth? I don't think about Ashley much anymore. When I do, it's not with anger. It's with the same dull curiosity you have when you remember an old scar. Like, that used to hurt. But it doesn't now. Not even a little. And that, my friend, is the real ending. No fireworks. No cliffhanger. Just a man who walked through fire, didn't flinch, and came out clean on the other side.